Hi. Sometimes in the Amazon, it feels like everything is trying to either eat you, scratch you, poke you, sting you, bite you, make you sick. And, what brings to mind is the great filmmaker, Werner Herzog. And he once described the Amazon as a place, and I quote, where he would see fornication, asphyxiation, and choking, and fighting for survival, and growing, and just riding away. And he called it a place of misery and chaos, and such a violent place. There is some truth to what Werner Herzog was saying about the Amazon, because at times it can be difficult to handle, and sometimes it does feel like a place of misery. So today I'm going to share just a few examples of what I mean in terms of being miserable in the Amazon. And let's start with the obvious: mosquitoes, right? They are just atrocious. And where I live, I don't have mosquitoes for a big part of the season, and only in the summertime, but they're nothing like in the Amazon. So these mosquitoes that the Yanomami call ukushi, and if the itchiness and the bites weren't troublesome enough, you have to be worried about the parasites that are in their saliva, because as they feed on you, they inject the Plasmodium parasite that gets in your bloodstream and then travels to your liver, where they incubate, and then when they're ready, they go to your blood and invade your red blood cells, where they multiply and burst the red blood cells, leaving you in high fevers and shakes and system-wide damage to your organs. And of course, you know what I'm talking about: malaria, or what the Yanomami call prisi. During the day, there are always swarms of gnats and flies and midges and fleas that are always trying to attack you and look for some kind of exposed part of your skin. And they look for anything: hands, arms, feet, back, chest, your neck, your ear, sometimes in the webbing between your toes and between your fingers. And that's the worst, when you get bit by one of those gnats in the webbing, and it stings and itches like crazy. Once I was unlucky enough to have one of these biting gnats, which the Yanomami call pareto, fly between or underneath my sunglasses, and somehow was able to land on the periphery of my eyelid and bit me there. And it stung so bad, and the itchiness was really, really annoying. And then my eye got really red and really puffy, and it was just, very miserable. I'll never forget the one time where there was this huge black fly that was hovering around me like an attack helicopter, looking for a way to land onto my skin. And I had shooed it away vigorously and then paid it no mind, and I went back to what I was doing. But seconds later, the fly had came back undetected and landed on my heels, where it ravenously chewed on my skin to create a pool of blood so it can feed on it. And the bite was painful, and I violently slapped my heel to try to kill the fly, but I didn't get it. But here's the crazy part: the fly didn't go away. It maintained altitude right at my head level, and as it maintained altitude, it was staring at me. I never had such an eerie feeling or connection with a fly. This one was mean looking, and I went to swap at it, and it did this evasive lateral shift where it avoided my swat, but it didn't fly away. It maintained position, just looking at me. It was telling me that I should just submit and give up my blood. It was the craziest fly I've ever encountered. To add to the list of things that bite you, there are spiders. The very first big spider that I've encountered was a tarantula, and the Yanomami call them ha'ols. And they're kind of mean looking. They're just this black furry things that look dangerous, but in reality, they're really not all that dangerous compared to some of the other spiders. One night when I was sleeping, I was just lying in my hammock looking up into the night sky, and I had a mosquito net around me. And I looked to my right, and there was this sort of shadowy figure quickly scurrying up the side of my hammock. Then it climbed up over above and stopped right above me. And I was thinking, that's strange. So I grabbed my flashlight, I shined it upwards, and I saw this big black tarantula right on top of my mosquito net. Fortunately, it was on the other side of the mosquito net, so I didn't feel like I was in any danger, but still, it made my hairs tingle. At the same time, I was really fascinated. So I looked for my camera, and as I grabbed my camera, I just I just blurted out, "Wow, that is a big spider." And my mom, she was one hammock over, I think she recognized the word spider in English. And the reason why I say that, because out of nowhere, she just jumped out of her hammock and grabbed a piece of burning firewood and darted towards my hammock. And I think the tarantula sensed the commotion as dangerous, scurried away quickly, jumped onto the shrapnel pole, started climbing upwards toward the ceiling. And just before it got out of reach, my mom took the burning end of the firewood and killed it. And unfortunately, when she killed the tarantula, all the burning embers from the firewood landed on top of my my mosquito net and burned holes through my net. And that was a miserable night, because all the mosquitoes just poured in and they did not let me sleep. They were biting me all night. I didn't really have any materials to patch up my mosquito net, and I learned my lesson that day. You should have needle and thread or an extra patch, some way to fix your mosquito net. So you live and learn, and I lived and I learned. My next encounter with a kind of howl or a tarantula was at a mission compound where I had access to a toilet. In the middle of the night, I had to go to the bathroom and I just had to urinate. I walked to the toilet, and then after a few seconds, I looked to my right, and there was this big, mean-looking tarantula just inches away from my face. And you have to keep in mind, I'm just some kid from suburbia New Jersey. I've never seen spiders like this. And growing up, I was always afraid of bugs. It was kind of a joke in the family. I was afraid of flies. I was afraid of ants. I was afraid of any kind of bug that crawled or buzzed. And the big joke in the family is that even a ladybug would freak me out. And here I am in the Amazon seeing this giant spider for the first time. Though I was midstream, I still jumped back like 2 or 3 feet, and I made a mess of myself and just peed everywhere. And for me, it was quite a terrifying moment at the time. Okay, next are the scorpions. There are so many different kinds of species of scorpions in the tropics. There are big ones, little ones, but it's the little ones that you have to really watch out for. Once I did get stung by a scorpion. I had a towel hanging up, and I grabbed the towel to dry myself, and I suppose the scorpion was in between the foldings of the towel, and I went to dry the side or my armpits there, and it stung me right underneath my shoulder, and it was quite a sting, and I was a bit scared and nervous because I didn't know anything about scorpions at the time, and I was just wondering what's going to happen to me. So I just kind of sat still for a little bit, and after about an hour, nothing happened to me. So I thought, okay, I'm safe. There was another time when I was sitting on a piece of firewood, and mom pushed me aside really quickly, and she pointed to this little black thing, and upon closer inspection, I saw it was a tiny little black scorpion, and those are the ones you need to look out for. I don't know the exact species of this scorpion, but I believe it's part of the Tidius genus, and this could be the Tidius obscurus, which is known as the Amazonian black scorpion. If there's an arachnologist watching this video, would love for you to chime in the comments here. All I know is that you do not want to get pricked by this guy. Some of the symptoms include fevers, shakes, muscle twitches, convulsions, nausea, vomiting, hallucinations, and unfortunately, it can be fatal. There are reports where people have died from the sting of the Amazonian black scorpion. Other tiny creatures don't really kill you, but they can still cause a world of pain. And one of them is the Tanga penetrance, or what the Yanomami call the hihu, which is a little chigger flea. And this flea can get underneath your toenail or in your toes or basically anywhere on your skin. But what it does, it burrows in, and it's just a speck. You can hardly even see it. It burrows into your skin, feeds on your blood supply, and lays eggs. And it gets about 20 to 30 times its size. And as it's laying eggs, it's defecating, and it's just living its cycle. And after about a couple weeks, you get this feeling that something is writhing inside you. It's such an awkward and weird feeling, and that happened to me one year. Speaking of feeding on your blood supply, in the Amazon, there are vampire bats that feed or subsist solely on blood. They wait until you're fast asleep and they land nearby and they kind of creep up on you and they'll jump onto your body, an extremity of your body, for example, a big toe, and they have razor sharp teeth and they can slice through your skin without you knowing. And as they slice through your skin, they secrete in their saliva, they secrete an anticoagulant and an anesthetic. So the anesthetic numbs the pain so you don't feel it, and the anticoagulant prevents blood clotting. So what happens is you just keep bleeding, and the vampire bat just keeps lapping up your blood. As far as I know, I don't think these bats transmit any kinds of diseases, but still, it's kind of creepy to think that you're asleep and there's this small little creature just drinking your blood all night long. Okay, so far we talked about fleas, flies, vampire bats, mosquitoes. I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention the tick. As far as I'm aware, I don't think any of the ticks in the Amazon transmit any widespread diseases. So the Yanomami call these ticks tori as a general term for tick, or shiheni for the much smaller ones. And I don't know if the smaller ones are just small because they're a different species, or if they're just the nymph size of the larger ticks. Either way, they can be overlooked. If they attach to your leg, for example, and if you don't catch them in time, or if you don't notice them, that what they do is they migrate up to your groin area where they begin feeding on your blood. And they can stop anywhere in your groin area, and that includes your scrotum. Yep, that happened to me one night. It was after a long trek, and I remember it was such a bad day. I was in a bad mood. I was tired. I was sick. I was not feeling well, and I just collapsed in my hammock and just drifted to sleep. Then in the middle of the night, I woke up with the most intense itching I've ever had down there. And I grabbed the flashlight, looking around thinking, what's burning me? What's biting me? And I didn't see any creepy crawlers. And I gave a closer inspection, and I noticed there was 2 tiny little ticks on my scrotum and another little one nearby on the inner side of my thigh. Boy, I was furious. I was angry. When you're angry in Yanomami, you say Yahushua, and I was angry because having ticks feed on your scrotum, I think is bad any day, but it had to be that night where I was just feeling so awful. So I looked for tweezers. Fortunately, I had a first aid kit, and there were some tweezers in there. I thought about asking for help. And then I thought, well, that would probably open the door for a lot of laughing and ridicule. So I said, I'll just take care of this myself. And after a while, I was able to remove the ticks, and I wanted to exact revenge. So I walked towards the hearth where there were still some burning embers, and I placed them on the embers and just hoping them a painful and horrible death. Thinking back, I kind of feel bad for torturing them, but I was in a bad mood that night. On another day, during another year, I was walking down this beautiful creek. It was just gorgeous, picturesque. The way the sun was just beaming on the glistening water, and you can hear the trickles of the current as it's meandering between the rocks and the small rocks and the large rocks. And surrounding the creek was just beautiful, lush foliage. A blue morpho butterfly had fluttered across me. And I'm just thinking, wow, this is such a scenic moment. So I was so happy that I had my camera, when out of nowhere, I felt this excruciating pain in my right earlobe, and I swapped at it. I'm like, oh my gosh, what got me? And that hurt. And then it got me again, and then again. And I'm thinking, I'm being attacked. And it was so painful that I accidentally dropped my camera. And before it fell into the water, I was able to grab it, and I just ran. I just darted down the creek and thinking, my ear was just throbbing, and I was freaking out and didn't know what was getting at me. And I turned around and I saw this black wasp just kind of buzzing around angrily, and finally it flew away. Growing up, I've been stung by bees and hornets, but I've never been stung by multiple times by the same hornet or by the same wasp. So that was a very painful and interesting experience. Last quick story, because so far I've only talked about bugs and insects and bats, but you gotta look out for plants. I feel like the plants are out to get you too. So the one time I was walking down the trail, we we were going from one shot meadow to another, and it was about a 6-8 hour hike. I had a very heavy pack on me, and I remember halfway through, I was so tired, so exhausted, and just needed to rest. And all I wanted to do is just, lean my arm against a tree and just get a breather. And it's the second I did that, I jerked back because I felt this terrible sting on the palm of my hand, and I looked at it. I didn't see anything there. And then I looked at the tree, and it's one of those palm trees that are just coated with spines. It brought back to mind a very good piece of advice that my father gave me before I left. And that is, you really have to watch where you're sitting. You have to watch where you're walking, what you're leaning against, and you can't really afford a mistake. And the jungle is really, really unforgiving. And I know, and I'm very well aware that what I've experienced in my few trips is just a sliver of what a Yanomami experiences in their lifetime. And it just makes me truly respect the Yanomami people and the way they can live rather harmoniously, and sometimes in an ecosystem that seems very dangerous. The good news is that I'm no longer afraid of bugs. So those fears have been squashed, and I love spiders. I love bugs. They're very fascinating, and I respect them. I like them. I don't like that they try to drink my blood or bite me or poke me, but still, I admire all forms of life. Well, thank you for watching. It was fun, and I look forward to the next video. Until next time, take care. Bye.